Hello and welcome to this video tutorial on how to calculate the critical path for a network diagram. So what you see in front of you is a very simple network diagram. It's from the Understanding Project Management textbook. And so I'm going to just go through the process of calculating the critical path. Now in the upper left corner, you'll see the convention for indicating the various dates that are on the network diagram. So you can see that early start and early finish are in the upper left corner and upper right corner. The late start and late finish are in the bottom left, bottom right, and the total float is in the middle. The task ID, the name of the task, and the duration are as follows. Now, for information on as to what the early start and early finish is, total float, late start and late finish, that can all be found in the textbook. So I'm not going to go through that in this video tutorial. So we're going to start with the calculation. So step one is that we start at the start of the project, which makes sense, on this case the left side of the screen. And the very first thing we do is to set the early start of the first task, which is select destination for 2 days. Now that is calculated or indicated to be the following. Day one. So it starts at the start of day one. And the assumption that we're going to use throughout this is that this schedule will be performed as soon as possible. So everything will start as soon as it can. So it starts on day one, which makes sense. Now, to calculate the early finish, what we do is we take the early start, add 2 days, and then subtract off 1. So in this case, is the end of day 2. So it's 1 plus 2 equals 3, minus 1 is 2. So that should make intuitive sense. Now at this point, we now have, there's 2 tasks that are dependent upon the completion of select destination. These 2 tasks, apply for passport and book vacation. So they may start as soon as select destination is complete. So in this case, they start at the start of day 3, which is really is calculated as the early finish plus 1 is the early start of the next. So in this case, the start of day 3 and the start of day 3. Notice they both start together, which makes sense. If you look at the dependencies, that makes sense. Now again, now what we do is just continue on for a little while. So if we look at apply passport, its early finish will be the end of day 12. And again, that's 3 plus 10, 13 minus 1 is 12. Here, the end of day 3 starts at the start of day 3, ends at the end of day 3. Again, that calculation would be done. We're going to now calculate the early start of pack for vacation, and that's the start of day 4. So again, it's equal to the early finish plus 1. Now, in this case, we have something unusual, special happening, which is we have 2 predecessors to the depart task. So now the question is, well, what is placed here? Do we take, I just needed to update that as well. So that's 4. So do we take the 12 and add 1 to be 13, or do we take the 4 and add 1 to be 5? What is the early start of depart? Well, in this case, we take the largest. So we can't start at the start of the day 5 because this won't be done yet. So we take the largest of these 2 and add 1. So the early start for depart is the start of day 13. The early finish is then the end of day 13. So we have done what's called the forward pass. So this process that I went through is called the forward pass. Next, what we do is perform the backward pass. So there's a forward pass, then there's a backward path. And in this case, now what we're going to do is calculate the latest that each activity may start and finish. So in this case, we need to prime it. So again, the or in this case, the late finish is equal to the early finish. Again, on the assumption we want to do this as quickly as possible. So in this case, the late finish is 13. And that's always the case, is you'll start that at 13. Just like the early starts at 1, the late finish starts at the early finish. Now in this case, we just reverse direction now. So to calculate the late start, we take the late finish, subtract the duration, and then add 1. So in this case, we go and calculate 13. So in this case, you can see the early start and late start, early finish and late finish are equal. But that's just in this case. Now, we now have a situation now that we're now going from right to left backwards through the schedule. We now have a situation where we have two predecessors. Now in this case, what we do is we take the late finish of the predecessor is equal to the late start minus 1. So we're just reversing what we did before. Remember, when we were going forward, we added. When we're going backwards, we subtract. And the same thing, you can see that's the same 12 for both of those because they're both predecessors. Now, going backwards, we again calculate, we'll do this one up here. 12 minus 10 plus 1 is 3. We'll do this one here. 12 minus 1 plus 1 is 12. We then need to calculate the late finish. That's equal to 11. So we subtract 1. Again, we'll calculate the late start here, which is 11. And now what we need to do, we're almost there in terms of our backward pass, which is we need to calculate the late finish for this select destination task. Now again, we have a situation where we have two inputs. We have a 3 late start and we have an 11 late start. So the question is, which do we use? Now you remember on the forward pass we took the larger of the two. On the backward pass we take the smallest of the two, the lesser of the two. So in this case we use the 3. We subtract 1. The late start is, or late finish, sorry, is day 2. We need to calculate now the late start, and that is 2 minus 2 plus 1 is 1. So there you have it. That we've now calculated the late start and late finish using our backward pass. Now the last step we need to do is, in terms of calculations, is the total float. Now the total float can be calculated as either late start minus early start or late finish minus early finish. It'll calculate the same amount regardless of which one you use. So just running through, select destination is 0 total float. Apply for passport is 0. Book vacation, 11 minus 3 is 8. Pack for vacation is 8. And depart is 0. Now again, for an explanation of total float, please consult your Understanding Project Management textbook. Now, a few things you can see here. This identifies the critical path, which is defined as the path that has 0 float. So in this case, select destination, apply for passport, and depart is our critical path, those three tasks. We can also see that the duration, the total planned duration of the project is 13 days. That is the early finish date is the expected duration. So that is the method for calculating the critical path. Thanks for watching.